Assalamualaikum. क्या हाल चाल है? ठीक ठाक हैं आप सब? Previously we have discussed yesterday we have discussed about the symmetry, but now I would like to discuss about the body planes. First of all, we should know uh, uh, why we are very conscious about the body planes and why we need to learn about the body planes. Actually, uh, you have seen many diagrams. Under the diagram you have you have seen written about that there is the transverse sections, there are horizontal plane, there are the transverse plane, there are the frontal view, medial view, and so on and so forth. So I'm telling by giving the examples. If I draw the diagram of the kidney or liver or something else, and in under this diagram there are many you can say the constituting things like the tissues and the cells. So how you can understand that where the particular cell or where the particular thing is located inside the organ or organ system, whatever. So by understanding these positions, these orientations, and these you can say dimensions of the body parts, body organs in the space and in the body system, you must be knowing about the planes. So body planes are very necessary. It might be possible there is not so much necessary for the intermediate students, but onward it is very basic need to understand the anatomy as well as the histology. You must be knowing about the body sections and body planes. So first of all, the first plane you must be knowing that there is a transverse plane. Transverse plane, or you can also say it the cross section plane. So whenever you see the cross section, it's mean transverse plane, and whenever you see the transverse plane, it's mean cross section. When I was in metric or intermediate, I think that the transverse plane like this, whenever you cut the thing like this is transverse section, and many of the students still knowing that thing that the transverse section is something like that. You cut the things like this is the transverse section. This is not true. For me this is true, might be possible, but this is not good concept. I think my student have very clear concept about the transverse section. First of all, for any section you have to determine the anteroposterior axis. Now what is anteroposterior axis? Anteroposteriorly or anterior or posterior end, you must be knowing what is the anterior end or what is the posterior end. So this is the anteroposterior axis. For me or for any bipedal organism, anterior end must be the mouth or the head end, and the posterior and the opposite side of the body, the tail end. So for me, my anteroposterior axis should be from head to foot, toe. Understand? So this one is the anteroposterior axis. So what is the transverse section? Right angle to the anteroposterior axis is the transverse section. So whenever I cut like this is the transverse section. So this is true for me. Like whenever I cut like this is transverse section. Even though for Kira is also like cut like this is the transverse section. But for those organisms that are innocent and tetrapods like this, their anteroposterior axis like this, because this is their head, this is their tail, and these are their legs. So this cutting is not the transverse section for such kind of organisms. For such kind of organisms, the transverse section must be like this. So this depend upon the you can say depending upon the anteroposterior axis. First of all, you have to determine the anteroposterior axis, and then you cut at the right angle, and you will end up with the transverse section. This is transverse section or cross section. Second section, horizontal plane. Horizontal plane is also known as, you can say, longitudinal plane, and also known as the frontal plane. So this is frontal plane, horizontal plane, and longitudinal plane. These three are the same. Now what are these? Again, you have to determine the anteroposterior axis. For me, my anteroposterior axis this. But again, another thing you have to determine, and that is dorsoventral side. Dorsoventral side, my dorsoventral side like this. Like front side is ventral side and the back side is the dorsal side. So this one is the dorsoventral. For me, this is dorsoventral like this, and for anterior posterior like this. So these are my side. Now from where I cut that it become the longitudinal, horizontal, the frontal plane. This must be the along the anteroposterior axis. Along the anteroposterior axis means like anteroposterior axis run like this. So the horizontal section is also run like this. Anteroposterior axis this, horizontal section must be run by this. But how? This run or this run? So horizontal plane, frontal plane or longitudinal plane is the right angle to the dorsoventral plane. This is dorsoventral side my. So this is the right angle of the dorsoventral. So whenever I cut like this, so this become the frontal plane or the horizontal longitudinal plane. Again, you can see this is along the anteroposterior axis, but this is right angle to the dorsoventral side. So this is the second thing. Now the third one, last one, is a vertical plane. Vertical plane is along the anteroposterior axis, but along the dorsoventral. So whenever I cut like this, this will become the vertical section or vertical plane. So we have discussed about the three planes, body planes, the transverse, cross section. These are the very popular and very important to understand by knowing the different diagrams, anatomical position and histology. So transverse section or cross section, and then we have studied the frontal view or the horizontal view, the longitudinal plane or longitudinal view, and then vertical plane. And mid of the vertical, like if I cut like this is vertical plane, but mid of the vertical plane, I've discussed even though yesterday, that is the sagittal plane. So these are the body planes. So inshallah in next videos I will discuss about the further basis of the classification of organisms, or the very little, or you can say the different terminologies that all students must knowing about them. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.